thank you for tuning in. This is Cloudy with a Chance of Therapy. My name is Justin, and I'm sitting here with Kristen Cookson. Shouldn't use your last name, we'll do that later. I'm sitting here, restart. Hi, now don't you restart. That's a note for me to restart. Hi. Alright. Hi, thank you for tuning in. This is Cloudy with a Chance of Therapy. My name is Justin, and I'm sitting here with Kristen. And today we're going to be talking about ourselves, a little introduction of who we are and why we're doing this, and a bit about communication, especially between couples and in relationships. To start off, say hi, Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
And who are you, and why should we listen to you when we're talking about this?
So, as you said, my name's Kristen. I am a LPC, which is a licensed practicing counselor in the state of Ohio. I have been working as a therapist for going on about 5 years now. I've been when it comes specifically to communication in a relationship, I've been in a committed long-term relationship since 2003 with this knucklehead.
Woo!
But I have a master's from Marshall, so I have a bachelor's of arts from Marshall in both mental health and school counseling. Graduated with those in 2019. So those are my credentials. I've been licensed in Ohio for about a little over 6 months. Not all positions require you to be licensed in order to work. But like I said, I've been a practicing counselor for going on about 5 years now.
Awesome. And I'm just a guy. I'm her lucky husband. I am just here to ask the stupid questions so you can get the smart answers. So you said we've been together. Yeah, we've been together since 2003, starting October 2003. We actually got married in...
Oh, can you answer this question?
Shoot. 2021?
Nope.
Shoot. I'm in trouble. 2020?
Yeah, there we go.
Hey, 2020.
Do you remember the month and the day?
It was November at some point. The
7th.
Yeah.
It's our roommate's birthday.
You know, we probably shouldn't say that, like doxing ourselves.
I am look-upable.
Fine. Anyway, so...
I said what state I was licensed in. I legitimately am look-upable.
So, basically we've been around the block a couple of times. We especially focus on ideas of within ourselves, how to communicate, what to communicate, where to communicate. So, starting off, what would you say is the thing that most people get wrong when it comes to communication?
So I think they take it for granted, and I think they undervalue it. So we had to learn how to communicate with each other. We were raised in vastly different communication households. So your household communicated loud, whether it was anger, whether it was affection, whatever it was at the volume of 10. My family wasn't that way. We communicated in a much lower decibel. And so we had to learn how to communicate with each other in a way that didn't cause the other to shut down. So I think a lot of times couples, especially new couples and young couples, and when I say young couples, I don't necessarily mean couples that are young in age. I think young can also mean early on in that relationship. They struggle to find their communication style. I like to beat the conversation horse dead. I'm going to talk it out, I'm going to talk it out, I'm going to talk it out. And that's not necessarily the best for you. So we kind of had to figure out how it's going to work the best for each other.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, when we first got together, like, as you said, my family, we were loud. My family was everything was screamed at top volume. Everything was aggressive and kind of violent in a way. And we, that's just how we operated. So when we first got together, that's how I thought we should operate. But since your family, like you said, was at zero, basically, volume, every time I started yelling, you shut down and, freaked out. So I had to learn how to not yell. That took us a bit. That took us,
Yeah, I would say it probably took us a good 4 or 5 years almost to figure out how to communicate with one another, and that was productive, where we weren't just circling this conversation drain of hitting the same points. And again, like I said, I ruminate. I'm going to get stuck on that same talking points, and I'm going to talk them, and I'm going to talk them, and I'm going to talk them until they're dead. And that's not productive either. So for us, it was very much learning how to best communicate in a way for making sure we were both of our needs were being met. You weren't yelling, and I wasn't shutting down, but I also wasn't talking myself into circles. And I still do that. I will catch myself fixation and ruminating.
The other thing, since I was yelling, the thing that I noticed that you had done a lot was you didn't actually tell me what was going on.
Yeah, so because I didn't have a lot of dates in our early, I didn't date a lot, I fell into that pitfall of modeling what I saw on TV. My parents made a point of not arguing in front of me or having what they considered adult discussions in front of me.
Do you
for
think
good
that
or for
was good or
I'm 50-50 on that. Yes, they should not have had adult conversations in front of me, or things that weren't appropriate for me to be around. However, I fell into those pitfalls of, well, if you don't know what you did, I'm not telling you. Because that was what I was seeing on TV. That was what I was seeing in movies. And that's not a healthy way to communicate. If someone legitimately, yes, there are times when you spilled the pasta sauce, it is very clear you know what you did. If you point at a mess and say, hey, what did you do? And they say, I don't know what I did. There's a difference between that and saying, I don't know what I did, and saying, having a conversation and somebody being mad and you asking, I don't know why you're mad, please tell me. And then that person refusing to answer. Those are entirely different types of things, if that makes sense. And you need to, for me, it was very much that immature teenager relationship. And I will take full responsibility for that. I didn't know how to have a grown-up argument. I didn't know how to have that.
If you could go back and give 19-ish year old you some advice, what would be the first piece of advice you'd give her?
Oh, probably just be more open about what is going on what is going on in your head, what is going on in those thoughts.
Actually say the thing?
Actually say the thing. Don't dance around it. Be like, hey, you said XYZ and it hurt my feelings. But on the flip side of that, I was so insecure in our relationship then, and I still have those moments. Even, we're coming up on 23 years now. 22 years. 22? 23.
2003 to...
So 22.
22 years, yeah.
Yeah, we're coming up on 22 years, and I still have those moments of insecurity when I need that reassurance. And I understand that it's not logical. I understand, though, that it's an irrational fear, but, it is what it is. So it's one of those things that without spoiling the journey that we went on, just saying, trust he's not going anywhere. Trust in your.
So a relationship always comes down to trust. You either have to trust them or you don't.
Yeah.
And like trust has to be earned. So communication, especially, is not something you're going to get good at right away, right?
Yeah.
So it's trust and patience.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. It's, and especially like in both of our cases, the learning curve of all those growing pains that we went through of being 18, 19, and the life experience that through that.
If you could go back and give 19-year-old me advice, what would it be?
Let go of being angry.
Yeah, my advice to both of us would be chill, shut up and listen.
Yeah. Get out of our own way.
Okay. So what's a practical way to do that? Like I'm sitting here, hey, Miss Cookson, how do I shut up and listen?
That. Actively, if you are having an active conversation, listen actively. And what I mean by being an active listener, if somebody is having a conversation with you and they are talking with you, let them have your undivided attention. Be focused on them. Even if you think it's not an important conversation, even if it's the conversation you've had 6, 7, 17 times, be present. Be with them 110%. Make eye contact. If eye contact is something you struggle with, look just over the top of their head.
Because I'm not always good with eye contact, so I pick a point to stare at.
Yeah. Let them know that you are paying attention to them, that they have your undivided attention, because sometimes when you are stuck in those thoughts of feeling unheard and feeling lonely or isolated, even if you aren't technically isolated or you're not technically in a situation like that, having that undivided attention to feel those feelings, to get that out, can make a big difference on how you come out the other side of that conversation. As a therapist, we refer to that as active listening. You are being an active listener. How I do that as a therapist is I don't have anything in my, I won't be on my phone, or I won't be multitasking. I am completely present with my client at the time of the session. So as a partner, how you would do that active listening is don't be on your phone. Don't be playing a video game. Don't be reading something. Give your partner as much, or your child, or your sibling, or whoever is having this conversation with you. Because remember, communication isn't just something that is between romantic partners. These communication skills can be used in any relationship that you go through.
Let's because I worked as a call center customer service rep for a long time, and so that relationship communication isn't everything you have. It's all there is. There's no, it's just a voice with a phone. So the thing I always, if someone comes with you a problem, listen to the problem, recap the problem to them, summarize it, and ask for more details, and once you've done that, once you've gotten everything they need to tell you, then you can start, because I'm a guy, my first response is offer a solution. That's not always what you want, you have to be clear about that to me a lot. You don't want a solution, you want just a vent.
Yeah, and something that we've started saying between the two of us, do you want a solution, do you want a shoulder, or do you want, what's the third one? Solution, shoulder.
Or, encouragement.
Yeah, a pat on the back, essentially. And that way, you know that, and in this, I'm not, you as in my partner, you as in Justin, not you as in the royal you, know that, you know, what I'm asking for you from the situation. But like, I do the same thing in therapy. In a therapy session, when a client says, hey, this is what's going on, I'm like, okay, so what I'm hearing is, and then I'm going to recap the problem. And then I'm going to be like, okay, so this is how we attack the problem. We can attack the problem A, B, and C. How do you want to go about it? So, I mean, and almost, like I said, with communication, you know, the big thing is being present, because nothing feels worse than when you're trying to have a conversation with somebody and you feel like you're not being heard. You're not...
It takes practice. To be present takes practice.
It does. It is not easy.
Yeah.
Especially when you are dealing with 16,000 other things. And parents struggle with that a lot, because especially parents of multiple children households, you have one kid who's asking for help with homework, and you have one kid who it's bedtime and you are trying to get dinner done, and it is really hard to split that focus. But it is also really important to make sure that each individual child, as well as your and your partner's needs, are being met. So active listening can be really, really difficult. But it is one of the foremost and most important skills, I think, when it comes to having healthy foundational relationships with anybody. So,
all right, so active listening important, yeah. And you know, that takes practice, so it's going to take time to be good at that. Yep. Like, if you first start a relationship, they're not going to be good. No one's going to be good at that right away. So that's that patience and trust.
Yeah.
And trust is always validated by action, because it's going to be obvious to your partner when you're not actually paying attention. Especially if you've been with them for a while, they're going to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so active listening. Do you have any ideas for like when things get heated?
I think something that we've learned and have been incorporating is a conversation safe word. Pick whatever word you want. It's going to be something that you're never going to use in a regular conversation, like any safe word is supposed to be. So it can even be red, for all that matters. But it's a word that you use to put an immediate stop to a conversation. And that doesn't mean that you don't return to whatever the conversation is, because it clearly is, if it is sparking that kind of discussion and dissonance, and it is something that you need to clearly revisit. But it puts a pin in the conversation, puts a pause on the conversation until you have calmed down to where you can revisit the conversation. So it gives both parties a chance to walk away, to calm down. Nobody's attempting to get the last word in. It lets you reorganize your thoughts, go get a snack, have a drink of water, get some sunlight. I say all the time, Justin likes to remind me of this, we are complicated houseplants. We need water and sunlight, and food. There is a world of our problems can be solved by sunlight, water, and a snack. And sometimes a nap. So, you know, it gives you a chance to separate and kind of reevaluate where you are and calm down before you revisit the conversation.
And something we've discovered as well is that sometimes the conversation is just not one that's going to happen verbally. Like, we have resorted to be like, hey, this, for whatever reason, this argument, this conversation, face to face, we're getting heated, and so we back off and just go to text messaging. or that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I know that some therapists don't necessarily recommend that, or some psychologists don't necessarily recommend that. But for some people, it really does allow you to get the thoughts out. It allows more organization, as well as it sometimes will stop you from having those knee-jerk responses. And this is not anything we would ever say in a conversation, but this is kind of the example I always go to when you are so angry and you can't think of anything. I know you are, but what am I? As a far-fetched example of being so angry that you're just like needling at each other, and
it creates distance.
Yes,
and time to think.
Because it takes time to type out the messages, and though you have to read what you're typing and think it through, and you're like, is what I'm saying necessary? Because you're having to type it out, and it gives you that distance is exactly right to think about, okay, is what I'm saying, is it important enough for me to take the time to type out, whereas it would be quick and easy to just blurt out.
Yeah. With the so it comes down to, like all things in relationship, a little experimentation is necessary. Find out because it might not, what works for one group is never going to work for another. And it's always good to keep trying new things as long as everybody's aware, right? You don't just break these out of nowhere and be like, hey, we're doing this now. And your partner's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, and like all things, especially relationships, everybody needs to kind of be aware of what's going on when you go into it. So, like, I wouldn't just say, hey, we're going to do this whole brand new conversation thing that we've never discussed, never done before, and I'm the only one that knows what's going on. So, because then in that situation, it creates an imbalance of control and power. And unless that's a dynamic that you and your partner have already agreed on, that puts the partner on their back foot, and that's an entirely different dynamic. When a partner feels defensive or on their back foot, especially when you're having discussions or things like that, they're not going to be able to come into a conversation equally or fairly. They're always going to feel like they are at a disadvantage, like they're climbing up a hill, because you have all the control, you have all the power.
You have to ensure equity. You have to make sure that everybody knows the rules.
Right,
it's like
exactly.
any game.
Right.
It's got to be fair. The rules got to be known.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right. One last question before we wrap up. Earlier we talked about say the thing. What do you, like, how do you go about doing that? How do you say the thing? Like, because some people are like, I don't want it, he's going to be mad, or she's going to be mad, or I don't want it, it's just going to cause more fight. Like, what happens when you get to that position?
So that's the hard thing, because again, it's situational, because sometimes it is that situation. It's like, if I say the thing of, I feel uncomfortable, or I feel angry, or what you said hurt my feelings, or I feel upset or betrayed, or I'm really excited about this thing, or especially with those of us who are neurodivergent, we have those brain thought, like those little like things that get us super excited and whatnot. Not everybody shares those things, and sometimes our significant other, while they support our fixations and stuff like that, they may not share it. So they may not necessarily want to listen to us talk about, medical tools from the 1920s or whatever your weird fixation may be. And I don't when I say weird, like I say also,
when I'm like, hey, guess what? We're going on a 30-minute deep dive into World of Warcraft. Can I just read something funny?
Yeah, well, World of Warcraft would more be me. He would be more Warhammer. Warhammer 40K, which I'm like, okay, this is a grim, dark world in which everybody hates everybody, and orcs are magic fungi. You think I'm joking? I'm not. They are magic fungi.
You're not. I didn't say you're wrong. I'm just laughing.
They bud. And
so what do you like? So when? But what, how do you like? How do you build the trust to be able to be like, hey, I want to talk about a thing? Like, how do you start that?
I think that's complicated. Part of it is knowing that you're with the right person. Part of it is having that level of trust to know that I am with my type of people. I am with the people who matter to me enough to know that
the person's going to listen when you talk, and even if they're not interested in it, they're going to be interested that you're interested.
Exactly. 110%. It's like when I get excited about weird things. My undergraduate, for context, my undergraduate is in criminal justice. I occasionally will go off on weird tangents about serial killers, which was a pet study of mine in undergraduate. Or book characters, or headcanons for books, or other weird things. Right now I'm back into World of Warcraft. Those types of things. So I think a lot of it has to do with being with your people, whether that's friends, whether that's family, whether that's your partner. Needing to feel safe, sane, and represented with those people is part of it. Knowing that and I feel like that is a big part of it. I feel like if you are with somebody who feels the least, if you feel hesitant or at least a bit resistant, have that resistance or hesitance to be open with them in that authentic way, then maybe that's something you need to evaluate. Maybe the issues with the relationship are not necessarily based in communication. Maybe they're based in trust. And that's something entirely different that we can talk about. But I understand, like, and I'm not saying that it's going to be easy to say the thing. It's never easy to say the thing. It comes with a level of bravery and gutsiness that is difficult. It's like, for example, saying the thing is asking the person out. Is asking the person out ever the easy thing? No. But it's 98% of the time, I would say, always worth the risk.
And how your partner reacts to whenever you say the thing,
yeah,
always tells you a lot about your partner,
mm-hmm.
and maybe should be an indicator of how long you're going to be sticking around with them.
And I would, like I said earlier, communication, these skills are communication skills for all relationships. And when I say relationships, I don't mean intimate relationships between you and a significant other. I mean relationships general. So you can apply that same say the thing to a friend. If you're excited, and even if this is not a topic that your friend enjoys, you should still feel comfortable enough with that person to be like, hey, this is something I am excited about. This is something that I feel passionate about. And you should still feel comfortable enough to talk with them about it.
Even if you don't, maybe that's a thing to examine.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well,
so how would you, hold on, I want to ask you the question.
Okay.
How would you say the thing?
Let me just cut this out before I answer. Okay. How would I say the thing? Well, the way I kind of do it is, hey, and I start off with like a preamble, like, hey, I'm gonna say something about name the topic, and that gives you a chance to be like, okay, let's go, or not right now, later, you know. But it's giving the person you're talking to a chance to be like, I love you, but not right now, is important. And giving them and also giving them a chance to prepare themselves to sit down while you info dump them. Like, okay, I understand we're about to go off for a while about whatever your special interest is or whatever the thing that's caught your attention is. Let me get a drink and we'll do this. You know, but it's the leaving space for someone to say no. Because a lot of times, like, that was a problem for a long time with us. We just didn't leave space for other people to say no and be okay when we said no. But, alright, that is our 30 minutes. So we will pick this up next time. With the, in the meantime, Kristen, you stream. What days of the week do you stream and when?
I stream Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday right now, World of Warcraft. The Twitch channel is twitch.tv/Galanendel.
That's GALONENDEL.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. And we are going to be setting up an email, so if people want to send us questions, they can always do that, or you can leave them as comments on the YouTube, and I believe we'll also be putting this on Spotify. But if we will also go hunting out questions and stuff like that in the meantime. So if do you have anything else you want to say real quick?
Not at the moment. I think that is pretty good.
Well then, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This has been Cloudy with a Chance of Therapy. She's Kristen, I'm Justin, and we love having you, and thank you so much for spending this time with us. See you next time.
The email, if you would like to send any email or questions, which is same as the podcast name, cloudywithachancetherapy@gmail.com.